Hey, Yoga Mamas. I'm going to share with you a sequence that goes along with our current seasonal theme on curling inward. So it's pretty easy to think about yoga as these like spectacular postures where you're really opening up or going into your full range of motion. But about a month ago, I shared a post on a theme that was curling inward, which might sound like a strange yoga theme, but the idea was that we don't always have to be going to the max or being completely grandiose in our postures. A lot of the practice of yoga, the more subtle practices, are going inward, and it's not just meditation, but it's with the breath or even with small movements and adjustments in your posture. So, I like to talk a bit first about the position of the spine and what it means to do a forward bend, what I mean by curling inward, and what that actually can do for us. So, number one is just that feeling of hinging forward at the hips. So, you see postures like Dandasana. I recently wrote a post about Janu Shirshasana, which is like a head to what they call a head to knee pose. You don't have to put your head on your knee. Also, a forward bend where you hinge at the hip. More common ones that aren't seated are Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog, or you have Uttanasana, which is a standing forward bend. So one of the common grounds of all these forward bends, which maybe I should call them more forward folds, because bend is sort of like a funny word for this. Bend implies like something that's flexing and not hinging. I like to focus on the hinge at the hip when we do these postures. I'm going to turn so you can see. Like I said a few weeks ago, I read about Janu Shirshasana, which is with one knee bent. And when we go forward, rather than reaching with the head and collapsing forward, you'd want to hinge at the hip and let the whole spine stay lengthened. And then you only go forward as far as you can while maintaining that length in the spine. So maybe you just barely go forward, or maybe you don't go forward at all, but you push behind you with your fingertips, and that gives that, see, that little tilt in the pelvis. And if you've got a little tightness in the legs, you will feel it even if you're not going all the way forward. So that's a little food for thought. Curling inward, though, we do actually round the spine in yoga sometimes. Let's say you're doing a seated cat-cow pose, and maybe you've been to a yoga class and you're sitting and the teacher says, seated cat-cow, you're going to exhale, round the spine, inhale, arch the spine. And if you look closely as I do this, it's not just the spine that is moving. It starts at the level of the hips. So as I arch the spine forward, I tilt the pelvis forward, and then I open up the spine. Then I go the other way around the spine, but I tuck the pelvis back, and the spine just follows. So it starts here, and it goes up through the spine. Every time I shift directions, it starts at the base and travels up the spine. So just keep those two movements in mind, the rounding of the spine and the flexion of the hip, as two ways to curl inward or curl forward as you stretch the back of the body. So there's a short little sequence, and before you get into it, and you can practice with me, but I always recommend kind of just watching the video for ideas and then going to your mat or putting it in your day whenever you have time and doing it without my voice telling you what to do. And that's just a way for you to internalize the sequence, but also to go at your pace, because as I'm leading you through, it might be too fast or too slow for you. And I'm hoping that you'll do this more than once anyway. So I'll try to keep it simple. The first thing we'll do in this sequence is come into a tabletop or cat. So as you stay here, you want to keep that length in the spine. So a neutral spine would be long like that. In my opinion, toes can tuck under or go back. Some people get really nitpicky about what are the toes doing. You know what? I think it's up to you. Do what you want with your toes. We'll change them at some point. So as you breathe, and just let this movement be small at first. You'll inhale and arch the spine. Exhale, around the spine. Go at your own pace, inhaling, arching the spine and looking forward. Exhaling, rounding the spine and looking back between the legs. And let this be an exploration. Don't worry too much about exactly how you're doing it. No need to overthink it. Let your breath be your guide for how fast or slow the movement is. Continue a few more rounds. And then after those few rounds, the next time you round the spine, just pause there. So the spine is rounded, maybe the belly button's pulling in a little. The head is down, the chin to the chest. And as you stay here, press down gently through the palms of your hands so that you can create a little opening between the shoulder blades. Notice how the breath expands in your torso in this position. Exhale one more time and really empty your lungs. Push all the air out. Inhale, arch the spine, and exhale back to your downward dog. Tuck the toes under, lift the knees, press the hips up to the sky, the head and the chest go back a little, and just give yourself a moment to kind of wiggle into it. You can face your heels, you might turn your head side to side, knees might be bent. Take one more exhale here, empty your lungs. Inhale, lower the knees. Same inhale, arch the spine, look forward. Exhale, round the spine. Inhale, arch the spine, look forward. And exhale, back to downward dog. That's one round. We'll take 2 more cycles. You can go at your pace or follow with me. Next inhale, lower the knees. Continue inhaling as you arch the spine. Exhale, round the spine. Inhale, arch the spine. Keep that openness in the chest as you exhale and move back to downward dog. One more time. Inhale, knees lower. Arch the spine, look forward. Exhale, round. Inhale, arch. And exhale back to downward dog. Awesome. Now we're going to inhale, lift the right leg. Doesn't have to be high, just lift it up. Exhale, bring that right knee forward as if you're going to pigeon pose. And take a moment and stop there. You're hovering. That was the exhale. 2 more times. Inhale, right leg up. Exhale, move the shoulders above the wrists. You're like in a plank pose, but the right knee is into the chest. One more time. Inhale, right leg up. Exhale, bring that right knee forward. Hover, shoulders above the wrists. And then bring that right knee down, just passing through pigeon pose. We're going to turn to the left. Right leg is bent. Left knee is straight. So as we were hovering in that with the knee forward, that was a moment of curling in, but a very active moment, pulling the core in. Now with the leg down, we're getting ready for Janu Shirshasana. So I just rotated to the left. I'm going to turn my hips to face that straight left leg. Hands behind just to prop myself up, make sure my spine is lengthened. You can inhale and then exhale, hinging forward as far as I can go while keeping the spine lengthened. Hands can stay behind. Maybe they go forward, and wherever you place your hands, make sure that it feels comfortable. So we'll stay here just a few breaths. Notice my left foot is flexed. You want to lightly engage that left quad so that it kind of pulls you forward. Keep your breath moving. And then after a few breaths, just let yourself hang forward. Now we're rounding the spine instead of hinging forward. See how it feels in your body. Just for a moment. Now we're going to inhale and sit up. Put your right hand behind your right hip. Sweep the left arm forward and up and lift the hips up. You're resting on that right knee and your left foot. Awesome. And exhale, come down. We'll get ready for that whole sequence on the other side. So that you can see me, because if I turn the other side, my back will be to you. I'm going to actually face this way. So what you would do is bring your right foot back. You're in downward dog. Okay, now you stay as you are, but I'm going to flip. Downward dog. Repeat that whole same thing with the left leg. We'll inhale, bring that left leg up. Exhale, bring it forward, hovering, shoulders above the wrist. 2 more times. Inhale, left leg up. And exhale, left knee bent, shoulders above the wrist. 1 more time. Breathe in, leg up. Breathe out, left knee forward, hovering in this posture. And when you're ready, slowly place left knee down, just passing through pigeon pose. You'll turn to the right. The left foot is into the right thigh. Gonna turn the hips to face that right straight leg. Foot is flexed. Hands behind to prop myself up to lengthen the spine. Take a breath in. And then as I exhale, hinging forward, even if it's just a tiny bit. So I'm hinging by pushing a little, but also if you can engage that right thigh muscle, it helps to kind of pull you forward in a more balanced, grounded way. Again, if you want the hands forward, they could go on the ground, somewhere on your leg, they could grab your toe or your foot, whatever feels comfortable to you. But the focus should be on that hinge in the hip and keeping the chest open. Stay here for another breath. Now, next exhale, allow yourself to round forward. You don't have to keep the spine lengthened anymore. Let the weight of the head round you forward. And just see how that feels different than hinging at the hip. Good. Slowly come up on an inhale. Place your left hand behind your left hip. Sweep the right arm forward and up. Bring the hips up as you come up onto that left knee and the right foot. Just a nice big stretch in the side of your body. And then exhale, bring yourself down slowly. Awesome. So now we'll just turn into Dandasana. Allow yourself to kind of push with your fingertips. Same principle here. We're flexing the feet and pushing behind so that the spine stays lengthened. Here's a chance for Paschimottanasana, which is just like Janu Sirsasana, but now both legs are straight. So you can breathe in and then exhale and let yourself hinge forward. Again, it might not be a huge movement. You might not hinge at all. You might just engage the thigh muscles and push from behind, and that might be your stretch. For some of you, sitting on a folded blanket or a bolster is more appropriate, and it gives you that little boost so you're not collapsing backwards so much. That little boost so that you have a little support in going forward. If you want to round forward and you have more bolsters, or if you have more cushions, you can put some little bolsters here and just allow yourself to really relax into it. So the bolsters are there so you don't collapse the front of the spine so much, but there is some rounding, and that's fine. Good. So again, this is a suggestion. You can modify the sequence however you want. You could do little bits of it. You don't have to do the whole thing. I know sometimes I literally don't have time for that amount of yoga, and you might have time for 1 or 2 or 3 poses, or just a moment of time in Paschimottanasana, something like that. I recommend going back to one of my posts on yoga sequences for getting down. So getting yourself down on the ground, especially if you're doing this while your kids are nearby, and if you're lucky enough to do this without your kids jumping on you, which I can't say that's true for me all the time, but even just taking that moment to come down to the ground with a mini yoga sequence can add some more movement, and just a mindful pause to your day. So I'll put the link for those posts to those sequences for getting down on the ground. And you can also just make one up yourself. If you know enough yoga, find some ways to get down on the ground using like a little sun salutation or just a short sequence. I hope this is inspiring to you. Again, just do part of it if that suits you. Do it with me in the video, do it alone later, make it your own, add something else to it. But just giving yourself that moment to curl inward, coming back to our theme, curling inward. It's not quite spring. We're still in that time of year if you're in the northern hemisphere where, it's cold out. You maybe feel a little more tired. You can use this theme of curling inward if you're like approaching your menstrual period or even on your period, and like, how can I slow down? How can I do more relaxed poses that don't require so much of me? How can I physically curl forward or inward with intention? Am I hinging forward? Am I rounding forward? And neither of those is better than the other, but just recognizing like which one you're doing, what each one of those different ways that coming forward does for you. So enough of my talking. I hope you do this after the video or whenever, sometime during your day or your week. Let me know how it goes or if you have any questions. And I hope you visit my Substack newsletter at urbanyogamama.substack.com for more tips on bringing yoga into your busy day. Thanks for watching.